Hey everyone, today's November 19th, 2022. 4 years ago today, Charles Manson passed away in a hospital in Bakersfield, California. This video today is an interview with my friend Michael Channels. Now, Michael Channels is the beneficiary of Charles Manson's estate. Manson wrote out a will, signed a will to making Michael Channels his executor, I guess. And this video is a conversation with him. It went on for about 5 hours. Troy miraculously cut it down to what it is today, and we tried to make it as coherent as possible. But I've inserted little titles here and there to differentiate the different sort of subject matters. Now, recently Michael and I visited Charles Manson's final resting place, really where they scattered his cremains. I'm going to tack that video onto the end of this one, but this recording that you're going to see today was recorded after our visit to Manson's grave. So now Michael is still involved with the lawsuit regarding the estate. The other guy that's involved with the lawsuit is a guy named Jason Freeman, who claims to be Charles Manson's grandson by blood, although he's never submitted a DNA test. It's very complicated. It's still going on today. But Michael, I've been friends with him for a while, and this is the first chance I got to actually record Michael and I having a conversation. I hope you'll give it a listen and a look, and I don't know, I find it a fascinating conversation about a fascinating guy, Charles Manson. What made you start writing Manson in the first place? I mean, what switched you from...
I wrote articles for an autograph magazine, and one of my articles was printed under an advertisement, and the advertisement was, if you can get any one of these people's autographs today that are still alive, they're worth $100. It was like, the Queen was on there, Marlon Brando was on there, you know, big ass people were on there that were still alive, and Manson's name was on there, and I thought, Manson can't be that hard. He can't be as hard as the Queen. He can't be as hard as Marlon Brando. He's sitting in a jail cell. It's sent right to him. So I thought it'd be easy. And I thought it'd be an easy $100. To be honestly truthful about it, I thought it'd be the easiest $100 ever made. And that turned into not the easiest $100. It was the hardest $100 ever made, actually, because you don't write, you write back. And that's the reason his autograph was $100 in this magazine anyway, because he was really, really, really hard to get. He was not easy at all, not as easy as I thought, which sent me into a kind of like a determination. I'm going to get this, and I don't care what anybody says. And that's when I even tried to contact some of his friends, and they had him so secluded that they weren't letting me in either. So I was just bound and determined, and kept writing and writing.
Like how? Did it like years, or like how many letters, or how long do you think you wrote?
I started writing in '92, and I probably didn't get an answer from him until about '95. And I was like, hey, how you doing? Charles Manson.
And how many letters do you think you wrote in that period of time?
I can guess and say 50, because that's what I always say, 50, but that's just a guess. Some of them I copied and saved, so I can count those ones. I would say anywhere from 50 to 100 letters, because it was like a 3-year period of time. I wasn't writing him every day. I would write him periodically, like maybe once a month or something. So if you take 12 times, you know, it's about 50.
And what were you saying in these letters?
I was telling him about myself. So, like the first one, you jump right into it. Hey, I'm Michael. And then you run out of shit to say. So you start basically writing a diary of yourself. That's what I did to Charles Manson. I was like, yeah, I'm from Ohio. My dad, you know, then I started explaining my dad died. But before my dad died, he used to take me to horse racing track. And we lived along the Ohio River. We used to fish for catfish. We used to grow a garden. My grandmother was really religious. And go on forever about my whole life. So I told him everything about my life. One of the things I told him about my life is I grew up along the Ohio River. I went to the Nazarene church. I had a really religious grandmother that drugged me there. What happened to Charles Manson in his little life?
Yeah.
He lived along the Ohio River, went to the Nazarene church, and had a grandmother that drugged him there. So basically, he was telling me, he thought that I was a prison guard at first, writing about his life, trying to get into his head.
Oh, interesting.
Trying to get answers out of him. So he thought that I was playing dirty by what I was doing, telling him about my life, because he said I was telling him about his life. I said, no, I was telling you about my life. I lived in Ohio. And so that's when it clicked, and like, wow, we're really similar to each other. And I hate to say that, because if you say, wow, me and Manson have a lot of things in common, immediately people think, wow, you murder people? No. of the Ohio, you know, the Ohio River, the Nazarene Church, the grandmother thing, having a garden, having a crazy uncle. I had a crazy uncle too, so did he. We had a lot of things in common, and all these letters that I was writing him, it seemed like I was writing him about him rather than writing him about myself. So he thought I was playing a game with him at first, trying to get information out of him as a prison guard or whatever, or what have you. But I just kept writing about myself over and over, and I tried not to repeat things that I just wrote. So it was like almost my whole entire life. And then I even got into the point where I was telling you about high school and working in the funeral home and the things that I was telling you and Troy about, you know, when I worked in the funeral home, of how I'd pick up, I went into everything, everything that I could think of about me, because I didn't know anything about him. And I didn't really want to say anything to offend the person before I ever knew what their thoughts are. You know, I didn't want to say, hey, Helter Skelter guy, because that might be the end of it. So I never mentioned anything about him, because I was really scared to tread on them waters of what might offend this person. You know how that goes. You wrote mail to people and you really didn't want to say anything that might not get the autograph from them.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to do that to him either.
So this is solely, I mean, by telling your goal, your end game is to get a letter back with a signature.
An autograph.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all I cared about. That was my whole world then, autograph collecting. You know, and I kept writing, and
what about, okay, so but back to, so you wrote him, say 50 letters. What did you get the first time you heard back?
Just basically almost like a form letter from Manson. It's like, hey, why the letter?
And that's after 3 years.
Yeah.
Why the letter?
Yeah, it's like, why the letter? I'm too busy to write Charles Manson. Basically what it was, you know. And I thought, well, how are you too busy? You're sitting in jail. You got nothing to do. I'm the one that's busy. I got a job. But yeah.
And then you just continued doing what you were doing. And when did it get to the point where you were able to talk to him about him being Charles Manson?
He don't really pop right into your life. It's a slow process to get there. He'll even have other people on his behalf contact you to speak for himself.
People on the outside?
Yeah, people on the outside, people on the inside. And so to get to him is a really, 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 really hard task. And it's just, what really did it for me is how the whole thing came to a fruition. And it was like, I was like his main man in his life then. His friends, who were the ones who did everything for him, they secluded him too. They wouldn't let other people in. And the outside world could not touch Manson unless they went through his friends. His friends took off on him.
When I was watching the video, I saw you on that Delta Bravo, whatever that show was.
Right.
And it was like, I didn't like them, and I didn't like you, because it just was like this. It's like watching Manson. You know, to me, it was because your intensity and Manson's intensity, that was part of the thing that made me go, I don't want anything to do with this guy. Now, Ferrier, that guy that did that show that we were both in, the real show, he says, you should meet Michael. Michael's a good guy. You guys would get along really well. And I'm like, I don't know, I can't go there because of all this. And then Manson died. And that's what changed everything. That's what changed his show. But Ferrier was, to me, he said, you know, you should meet Michael. I think you guys would get along really well. And it's like, I couldn't do it. I had that block in my head that I just couldn't do it. And then after Manson died, and I don't know, whenever that show came out, that doesn't even really matter. But after Manson died, then Bruce Fox said, why don't you know, to bring Michael over or something. I think he texted me to the shop, and I'm like, well, I'll see how this is going to go.
And if you notice, when we came down to the shop, he ran right into the building, and I stayed outside.
Yeah, I remember.
I stayed outside, and that was for your own, that was for you. Because, again, I don't want to approach, because I know what you're talking about, that intensity, and people might confuse it with Manson and me being similar. I just kind of comfort for you, not to run into place, jump in your face, hey, here I, you know. Yeah. So I kind of felt that already. And that's why I stayed outside, let you come outside to me. And then when you did, then that's my opportunity there to win a person over. You know, like, hey, whatever you've thought about me, I hope you don't see that now.
You were really humble when you got out of the car, and I thought, I don't know, it was almost like, well, you know, we're both kind of high profile in that world and outspoken in our own support for whatever we felt like. And I've always been really adamant about victim, you know, and you've been, Manson's my friend. So, yeah, the two people meeting that have these strong personalities both have our preconceived notions about each other. Yeah, we both had to sort of win each other over. You're more open-minded about it than I am.
Yeah, I think so. Because and sometimes it could be a factor where it would hurt a guy's like me's feelings, where somebody would, because I understand all that too, of the good side, the bad side. There's always a good side and a bad side, and you got to fall on one of the sides, and I actually fall on the bad side here. So that makes me even have to feel like I even have to try harder. You know, like, I understand already all that stuff, all those preconceived notions that come with the bad side.
But you care enough to want to. That's, you know, I mean, you do care enough about people.
I love people
that you like.
I love people. I honestly love people. How people say, oh, I fucking hate people. I love people. I really, genuinely am a people person. I love people. I guess that's another reason that I could be more open and comfortable with a guy like Manson. I just like people. I like people. I can put myself in people's shoes too. I can put myself in Manson's shoes. I can put myself in your shoes. That's why I stayed back, knowing, oh man, if this guy come running into my business, because you own the business, I don't own it. I'm now intruding on you. Bruce is the one that said, let's go. I don't know if you actually even are up for that idea, you know? He's just dragging me along. I don't know if you even want to see me there. I don't know any of these things, because when you walked out of El Coyote one day, I was standing right there smoking a cigarette. You looked me dead in the eyes and you walked the other way. You were with a guy and you were talking to somebody, so I thought, oh, maybe you didn't see me or whatever, or what have you. But it kind of made me feel a little, I don't know, sad, I guess. Like anybody would feel when they're like ignored, you know?
Yeah.
Because I basically like, hey Scott, how are you? And you walk by and that thought's in my head of where I want to, and then when you walk by, my next thought is, fuck that guy.
Yeah.
I don't fucking like that guy. He's a fucking prick. He's an arrogant motherfucker. And that was, you know, and that was just from that. And I didn't know you. It was just me trying to recover from feeling like, oh wow, a little bit hurt, because I really wanted to say, hey Scott. And you walk out down the street, and that's when it immediately turns to, I don't like that guy. I just don't like that guy. Then all kinds of things come into your head, like, he's an arrogant asshole, he's this, he's that.
How long did it usually take you to drive to see Manson?
From my house in Santa Clarita to Corcoran, could be anywhere from 2 hours 15, 2 hours and a half. Even an hour and 45 some days. But I also visited, and while you're there, you can, you know, you get there at 8 o'clock in the morning, you can stay until 3:30 in the afternoon. Manson would sit out the whole time. He would sit it out until they say, hey, you gotta go. When I visited Charles Manson every single week, when Juan Corona was in the visiting room with his family, because they were every single week they would come and see that guy, and they would pray with him and eat with him and stuff like that. And he was a serial killer and also at the same time, Sirhan was fighting his case, and his attorney would go visit. So me, Sirhan, and Juan Corona and Charles Manson were all sitting in the visiting room all the time, all together. One time Manson's like, hey, you want to meet him? And stood me up and walked me over to him and said, like, Sirhan, this is my buddy Mike. Shook his hand, and he did the same thing with Juan Corona. It's like, man, my heart was just pounding.
That's insane.
You know? And it was during California had you know how sometimes when they come to the budget and they say we need to balance the budget, and then it passes over the time frame of when the balanced budget was supposed to be, and they start making cutbacks. Well, that happened that year that I was going to the prison. They hadn't balanced the budget yet, and they started cutting back on shit. And one of the things they cut back on was air conditioning in the prison.
What?
They start cutting into prisons immediately when the budget isn't passed. No air conditioning. So when I did meet Sirhan. He was sitting there in his underwear, and he stood up only in his tighty whities and shook my hand. Because they allowed him to go out there with no clothes on, basically just your underwear, because it was so hot. Because the budget hadn't passed and they'd shut the air conditioning off. We were in the middle of the desert and it was about 105 degrees in there. So when the first time I met Sirhan, he shook my hand in his underwear.
So, okay, Michael, tell the story, please.
So when I it's from the very beginning, after Manson died, I come out here to Bakersfield to turn in the will that I was supposed to turn in. Turned it in where we're going here in Kern, and they took it from me, took my fees, and let me leave. When I get home, I see on TMZ that Kern rejected the will that I turned in. So now I had to turn around, come back to Kern, and find out why it got rejected in the first place.
Yeah.
And what to do next. Well, in the process of trying to figure out where to turn this will in the first place, it says in probate law that you're supposed to turn it in the county where the person lived at. Well, Manson died here in a hospital in Bakersfield, which is in Kern County. He lived in Corcoran, which is in Kings County. The dilemma is where to turn it into now, Kings, Kern. So I take it to Kern because I figured that's where he was. I mean, that was his last residence in the hospital right there in Kern. So I turned it in there. They rejected it, so I come back to get it back. When I come back to get it back, they won't give it to me. They tell me it's now their property, and I still need to file the case somewhere else. So then I head to Kings County. Kings County, file all the paperwork, turn in a copy of that there, and at the same time, Jason was down here in Los Angeles, filing in Los Angeles County. That got picked up in the newspapers. None of my fiascos are here, there, to Kings County, to Kern. None of that was being cut, but they really grabbed onto that Jason filing down in Los Angeles. So even though I filed first with that will here, it got rejected. On my way from here to Kings to file again in the right county that it should have been filed in anyway, Jason filed down there. So now his takes precedence.
Why wasn't his filed? Why wasn't it rejected in LA and him sent up to?
Because the court's stupid.
Okay.
The court's stupid. A lot of things that the court does not make any sense. Honest to God, the case should be covered right now in Kings County. But do you think Jason's lawyers want to drive there? Do you think my lawyers want to drive there? So if the judge says Los Angeles, they just go for it because it's closer. But it actually should be being in Kings County. And they said, and the probate's really touchy because it says this: the last place Manson lived. Okay, and they said state prison doesn't count. Okay, then if he lived in Barker Ranch then, and we should be in Inyo County.
Yeah.
So there's all kinds, 4 different counties that Manson could be in right now. So pick and choose which one's closer to you, and which one you'll agree to going to. Los Angeles is the one. But probate law confused me, so that I'm filing in all these other counties, trying to do what I'm supposed to do right. Well, anyway, we're in Los Angeles now, and the case is there. And like I was getting to how all that started was, Manson dies. Jason comes on the internet and says, basically that, oh, my grandpa's dead, help me do a GoFundMe page. Goes to GoFundMe, puts up a page. GoFundMe, the next day, of course that gets picked up on the news, you know how that works. GoFundMe for Charles Manson. GoFundMe makes a written statement. Charles Manson's we're not doing shit with that guy, basically,
Yeah.
Took him off the platform, no money for that. The next thing that pops up the next day, Murder Museum. Jason needs to bury his grandfather. Murder Museum? Who's this? Wait, that's Zach. That's Zach's Murder Museum in Las Vegas is raising money for this motherfucker to bury. Why? So then I'm now in a competition with basically Zach Baggins jumped on Jason's bandwagon and was going to make a movie called Bloodlines, about the bloodline between Charles Manson and Jason Freeman. Now they're doing this movie in the beginning, so now they go get an attorney. They hire a probate attorney. That probate attorney hires another probate attorney.
Sorry.
Actually, Zach Baggins hired an entertainment attorney is what he hired for Jason. The entertainment attorney he's not got any practice in the probate field, so now he has to get a probate attorney. So now he gets a probate attorney. So Jason has two attorneys, and they really both belong to Zach.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Now I'm fighting. I don't even know what court I'm supposed to be in. I'm trying to get a lawyer to try to figure that out. I filed already here in Kern. I've already filed in Kings. Both of them's been rejected. Now Jason's got one filed in Los Angeles, so I have to go file there. And if I don't go file there, then I'm going to be out of the running anyway, no matter how much work I did here. And I can't find an attorney, but I still have to file legal papers. So now I have to become my own attorney, and I have to figure all that stuff out on how to file, what to file, how to write it, what to write it on, how many days that you have to do it, what kind of legal words that you can, all kinds of problems. That is the most, it's difficult.
It sounds grueling.
It is. It actually puts you into a different frame of mind, almost like depression, where you feel like the world's just crushing you, because it almost feels like it's too much for you to handle as a person. Like, wait a minute, I'm not an attorney, I can't do this. But honestly, if you put your mind to it, you'd be amazed at what you can actually do. So yes, there's a lot of legal ins and outs, but I'm not saying that I'm an attorney. I did all that stuff. I was able to pass for the first level of court, pro per. I kind of won on my part of the case for the stuff that I wrote up, but I'm not pretending I'm a lawyer. I know I would have got wasted in that courtroom without attorneys. I know it. The judge knows it. His attorneys know it. Everybody knows it. So let's be clear on that. You don't never want to go in the courtroom with attorneys on the other side of you, because that puts you in a different mindset too. And then when the media is waiting to talk to you after the fact, I was like, man, you don't know how nervous I was. I was so nervous that day I could have fainted. And now we're in Los Angeles. Now we're in front of, we're in Los Angeles, and all I know about this is like LA Law that I've watched on TV. Now I'm in this spot. Or Perry Mason, because it's the same building. You walk outside and you can see the telephones that Perry Mason used to get on. Put you in that kind of frame of mind too. It's like, wow, I'm in a much bigger place than I should be.
Out of your element, out of your league.
Way out of my league. And the attorneys that are next to me, they're you can look at them in the eyes and they almost look like piranhas, like, haha, we can't wait to get a hold of you. And all that, man, it's just so scary. And it took me probably a year and a half to get over all that kind of like pressure of all the things that come with this sort of thing that you don't realize until it happens. You don't realize that you're so important to Channel 9 News. I never had any idea in my mind that anybody from any news station was ever going to walk up to me in my lifetime and say, you're important, we want to do something with you on TV. I never expected to be my own attorney in the middle of a courtroom in Los Angeles. Just so many things that just right on you, and you have no choice. You just have to kind of deal with it and hope for the best. Have faith in yourself. Have faith that the system will take care of itself too. Whatever happens doesn't matter, Win, lose, draw, you're still going to be alive. It's not the end of the world, and hey, just deal with it.
So, the first time you went to court, was Jason there?
Nope, he wasn't there. I was the only one there. I was there with his two attorneys, and the media just bombarded me afterwards. And that's when I was put on television. And I think Jason watched that, and he thought, oh, fuck that. He ain't getting on TV. So the next week he was there. and then they put him on television the next time. So no, the first time he wasn't there, but I think he made it a point to come back the next time because he's seen how much television coverage there was at that place, and I got it all. And then when he came back the next time, and the media ran right to him and asked him to be on TV, and they came up to me after that, I said no after that. Every time after that, I just said no, I don't want to, I don't want to, I don't want to, I don't want to.
So it was just some offhanded comment by somebody that said that will is a forgery.
No, his attorney said that.
I know, but I mean, it's saying that's what latched onto it. That's what the public latched onto it. Has it ever been proven that I mean, obviously it isn't because it's still going on.
TMZ actually did their own test. They got their own experts in there.
And they said what?
Well, they matched. What they were doing is because there one time, I don't know if you know this, because there's so many facts involved in even just a state case that most people are lost. I don't know if you know or not, but there was 2 wills at the very beginning. There were 2 of them. Manson had 2 wills. You didn't know that, did you?
No.
Yes, there was. There were 2 of them. And TMZ had an expert come in and look at both of them. And they still have it up. It's still on TV. You can go look at it. And they determined that one of the wills doesn't look like Manson's handwriting at all, but the other one does. Well, the one that does was mine. And the other one was the other will that no longer exists anymore.
Who filed that will?
Okay. The first day of court, you asked me if Jason was there. No, Jason wasn't there in the first day of court. It was me and his 2 attorneys. Second time in court, not only was Jason there, so was Manson's son, so was Manson's daughter, you know, and that's where the second will comes in. Manson's son, Matthew. The reason Matthew Roberts was even in the court case anyway in the first place was, you'll have to look this up, you'll have to Google it. The Daily Mail in the United Kingdom came out with Manson's will. Here's a will that Manson left, and he left it to his son, Matthew. A guy in Chicago supposedly got this will from Manson, and he was to give this to his son, Matthew. That's how Matthew got in there, because of a will. So Matthew, the son, was there because of a will that Manson left him. You didn't know that, did you?
No.
You looked puzzled.
I thought,
you really looked
Matthew
puzzled.
just was claiming to be.
No, there was another will.
Okay.
And again, you can look it up on TMZ because they got both of mine. It's not even mine. It's the one that was given to me, and the other will. They compare them both, and it was also put out in the Daily Mail in the United Kingdom. This other will of Charles Manson's, and you can see the guy who came up with the will. Since then, they've said the will got lost underneath the guy's bed. I don't know where it is. It disappeared. It's never been turned into the state like mine has. Mine, like the one that I have. All it was ever just shown in the Daily Mail. That was it. But that's how Matt got into court.
But the document was never filed.
It was never filed. So that's another. That was another reason that Matt didn't have a leg to stand on either, because he came in as, hey, I've got this will. I'm the son. Charles Manson, my mother. And then by the time Matt was gone, again, like I was saying, Matt could probably still even be in this right now if they would have came up with that will, filed it.
Yeah.
Why didn't they file it? They didn't file it because they're afraid. They're afraid to file a fake document. Why did it get lost underneath the bed? Because I don't know what happened to it anymore, because I can't file the fake document. That's all I can think of. Because TMZ looked at it and they said, hey, this ain't real. I can look, I've been dealing with autographs all my life, and I can tell you it's a forgery. I can tell you somebody traced it. They tried to trace Manson's signature, maybe with whatever.
Yeah.
So, yes, there was a fake will involved. There was another will involved. I can't say it was a fake will because it's never been proven anything. But there was 2 wills involved, and Matt was one of them. And now he's no longer. And like I told you before, the judge told him, hey, get yourself an attorney. Like he told me, like the judge flat out told me, get yourself an attorney. You can't come in here and represent yourself. You're going to lose. Matt come back the next time. Didn't have an attorney. Another thing Matt would do is he would show up late all the time. He was never on time. He never did what the judge said. And the judge finally had enough of it. So Matt could still be in this case right now if they would have filed the document of the will that they said they had, and Matt would have tried to get some representation of an attorney. But Matt shows up in court one day, and the judge says, "Oh, this is your attorney?" And the guy says, "No, I represent Matt and his music." And that was the end straw for Matt. It was like, dude, represent your music. I told you to come back here with an attorney, not a guy who represents your music. And that was the end of Matt. So,
he didn't even, I mean, the last time, I think I was there, he just didn't show up, wasn't it? And they just said, okay, well, dismissed. His case is dismissed or something. Or no, he testified.
Yeah, he came like 30 minutes late.
That's right. And then I remember him being done and walking out being really glum.
He was pissed.
But it was done, yeah.
He was depressed.
Yeah.
And you know what the sad thing about this whole shit is too, Scott? Matt used to call me up on the phone all the time, talk with me. I took Spawn Ranch 3 different times or something like that. Always friendly with me and everything, you know. I never believed half of his stories then, you know. So what makes the difference? But when this court shit come up, he wouldn't even look at me in the hallway. People don't even look at you anymore. They act like you don't exist anymore. Like you're the enemy now.
Or he's ashamed because he knew that Will was a fraud, and he just couldn't look you in the face because first he was going up against you, and now he's humiliated and is embarrassed. Maybe.
Yeah, honestly, I don't think Matt thinks I think he believes the other guy who said the will is real. I think Matt believes him.
See, I
think Matt believes that he's related.
I know he does.
I think he does.
I did a documentary with him probably in 2006 or 7 for Britain, and it was, you know, about him being Manson's son, and I took him around to the different locations, and I remember really he believed it, totally believed it, but he also played it up. He dyed his hair, he got the mustache, he did the crazy eyes, he did the New Rising Sun band, I think was the name of his band. So it was very rock and roll. It was almost like it was just punk rock. It was like dangerous. And but I do believe sincerely that he thought it to be true.
I do too, because if you're around the guy enough, he's just got that that belief.
Yeah, but there's
sometimes it's almost like sometimes I look at it like this too. Remember when you were like 10 and you weren't really sure if Santa Claus was real or not? That kind of belief. It's like, oh yeah, I hope he's real. I hope Santa Claus is still real because he gave me some cool shit. I think that's the hope that Matt actually has.
And this was a good 10, 12 years before Manson died, so there wasn't an estate involved. You know, he was
legitimately trying to find out who his dad was. I think.
Yeah.
But again, he's played so many games. He's not been on the up and up, so that doesn't make you really look like, you know, you're trying to get some truth, but along the way you keep telling little lies to get to the truth. I don't know. Again, Matt never did anything bad to me. Every time I was ever around him, he was always nice to me, and he always believed that he was Charlie's kid, and that was fine with me. I'm not out to prove anybody wrong about anything. And most of the people that would tell me something, they're like, "Oh yeah, I'm Charlie's kid." Even when Jason said it at first, like, "Okay, sure, why not?"
We're here.
Wow, we're here.
County Department of Public Health. So this is the coroner's office where they took Manson after he died.
Yeah, he was supposedly on ice here, which they told us. And that's more things. In court, they say, "Oh, you're not allowed to lie in court." Bullshit! You're not allowed to lie in court. The coroner told us that he was on ice, and then they had to come back and say, "No, we were lying about that. He's not really on ice. He's like in a refrigerated part." And then they had to come back and say, "Well, you know, I don't even know if it's really a refrigerated part or not." So the coroner is actually the one that rushed this case. I don't even know if anybody at the coroner's office knew who Charles Manson was, because his wristband did not say Charles Manson on it.
What did it say? I have a picture of it, but I don't remember.
And it has a bunch of letters like ZZZZ, just a bunch of nonsensical letters on it that don't really even spell anything.
Do you think it was code because just so they wouldn't know it was Manson?
Yeah, I think they were trying to cover it up. I seriously think that the coroner thought somebody was going to come try to break him out.
So we're now in Bakersfield at the Kern County medical examiner's office. And so when Manson died at the hospital, his body was brought here. And then you were saying that you were here with, or you saw in the documentary.
My representative from the funeral home was here. I seen her.
Yeah. So about how long do you think Manson was here? In the refrigerator, not on ice, but
He was here from the time he died until March of the next year. Good 6 months.
he was in the refrigerator here for 6 months.
I don't even know if it was a refrigerator or not. At first they said it was a freezer, and then they said it was a refrigerator, but then after they got Manson, he was in such decomposition that who knows if it was just sitting there or not.
So you hired the funeral home to claim his body.
Yeah, the only way that you could get Manson's body out of here is I can't come and get it.
Yeah.
I can't come and show him the paperwork and say, hey, yeah, I got Manson's body, let me have him. No, a funeral home has to they have to represent you from that point. And they were actually, there was a point where Kern was almost ready to give me the body until they had that case down in Los Angeles.
Until the Freeman thing.
Yeah, and it was like, you know what, now we gotta let this case go.
And ultimately they just kind of went, we got to get out of here. We got to get him out of here. He seems to be the best candidate to them was Freeman because of some kind of bloodline that was supposed to be there. And they released his body to Manson to him.
Basically, in court, in court one time, they even had lawyers for the attorney show up in court to speed this along because of the fact that Manson was now, they knew he was decomposing here, but they had told the court that basically he was on ice. So everybody thinks that the guy's in a freezer, but that really wasn't the case. So then the coroner had to really stress it because now he's in decomposing here. They really need to get rid of him. They need him out of their hair. And so they started fighting down in Los Angeles. They send attorneys down there to fight to move it on faster, to get this case over with, to get him out of there. So they started pushing it more. And if it wouldn't have been for them pushing it more, and Manson, actually would have been in a freezer, we could still be fighting over that today. But they are the actual ones who push it. Like, we need to get rid of this. And even in one time in court, they're like, we need to get rid of a decomposing body, is what they said.
All right. So then from here, their people, Jason Freeman got a funeral home to come and claim Manson.
Well, Jason showed up. They were filming Jason for that, so they were filming everything that he did.
Yeah.
Let's go to the coroner's office now. So they start filming for, it was called Bloodlines, then it turned into Manson funeral film. And it's like 3 different parts, like 3 different 2-hour shows. And one of them shows him coming here. When he comes here and he's on the inside and they're filming him, that's when I seen my representative from the funeral home. She was also sitting there waiting for a meeting with these people. So 2 of us were actually here trying to get taken, and then they're like, okay, we need to fight this in court then. And then it got to the point where now he's decomposing, somebody needs to take him, So
they gave it to him. Now he must have had a funeral home come and get him.
he did.
Yeah, from here in Bakersfield?
It's the funeral home that he ended up in. Prior to, telling Manson, hey, why not just Death Valley would be a good place for your remains, because Manson had me go to a funeral home when he was alive. And I went to the one over beside my house where George Spawn is, because I thought, hey, because Manson was like talking like, oh, we could go down the Hollywood Cemetery, we'd be down there, and like, okay, we could be down there, but who's going to pay for that? How the hell are you going to get in that place?
Yeah.
All kinds of problems that I'm thinking about in my head. And I said, George Spawn's across the street. I got a flyer in the mail, because they sent him with like the LA Times one day, how to get in the funeral cemetery over here, come and get your plot today, that sort of thing. And I, like, hey, I took the flyer and I went over there and I says like, hey, yeah, asking about a plot, and then I finally told him it was about Manson, and like, fuck no, Manson ain't coming in here. Oh, and the guy was really nice about it. He explained that, you know, there's going to be people in our cemetery that are Jewish that'll want out of here. And I was like, what does Manson have to do against Jews? Well, people think in their mind that he does. He has a swastika on his head, and we'll just have people won't want to come here anymore, so it'll be a problem for us, so we would have to decline that sort of thing. So that's when I came and told Manson basically, you know, why don't you think about Death Valley? You know, that would be a great place. And so that's where, but I first got declined, and secondly, Jason got declined from us. So nobody even wants Manson in their cemetery. All his friends left him. He really needed my help. I helped him with dental care. I helped him with doctor's appointments. I helped him with eyeglass appointments. He gave me gifts. We fucking smoked cigarettes and drank coffee. It was just like a friendship, you know?
The one thing you said to me about him one time that it was always something I always tell people, you know, it's like, who knew that Charles Manson listened to Aretha Franklin records?
Oh, man.
You know? And then I was like, oh, that's the kind of stuff I want to know.
Donna Summer and all that kind of shit in the
Donna
background.
Summer?
Yeah.
No shit.
Yeah, it's like, there, what was that one chick that had that husband who beat her up all the time?
Country. Which one?
Yeah, her. He listened to that shit too. He had it on the cell one day in the background. So, yeah, he listened to that psychedelic music too.
Yeah.
That crazy that shit they play in nightclubs. Like that shit too. His friends, who were the ones who did everything for him, they secluded him too. They wouldn't let other people in. And the outside world could not touch Manson unless they went through his friends. His friends took off on him, and he didn't have them anymore. And the only person he had was me writing them letters all the time to him.
Did something happen to make those people bug out?
They say that the Secret Service showed up at their house and gave them an ultimatum that they either, because they were writing several Manson people, and they gave them an ultimatum to either write Charlie or write Lynette Frome. So they chose Lynette Frome. But the ultimatum that they gave to these people, the guy was living with Sandra Good. So why didn't the Secret Service give them an ultimatum like, you can only write to one Manson person, but you're living with one, so pick that one that you're living with?
Yeah.
It didn't make sense. So I don't know what the truth is or why they left.
So, but
because the Secret Service came to my house too, and they never gave me an ultimatum. They never told me you can only write one of these. And at the time, I was writing Susan Atkins, Tex Watson, Bruce Davis. I was visiting Bruce Davis. I was writing Lynette. I was writing Charlie. I was writing them all, and they never told me you can only write one of them. So I don't know what the other person's excuse is. They say it was the Secret Service made them, but the Secret Service came to me too, and they didn't make me do shit.
Well, they came to you for a different reason.
They came to me to know why I was writing all these letters to Charles Manson.
But didn't you write somebody that was kind of high up politically, and that's what kind of flagged them?
No,
I thought
I was writing everybody, and I was writing a couple assassins at the same time. So it could have been a flag. That I don't know. I used to think it was the assassins that flagged it, but when the other guy came out who was friends with Manson and said that they visited him as well, I thought it has to be Manson that's doing this shit. And when they come every time, they ask about Manson too. Every single time they ask about Charlie Manson is the main thing on their mind. But at the time, I was writing, I was also writing John Hinckley, because he was in the mental hospital.
Maybe that was the red flag I was thinking.
That could have been a red flag to set him off of. I'm writing Lynette Frome too. She tried to kill Ford.
Yeah. Right.
So now I'm writing a couple of them. And one of the first questions that they had when they came to my house was, when they asked me to search the house, they were like, well, can we search your house? I'm like, why do you need to search my house? Just to make sure you don't have any dead shrines to presidents or anything. Oh, man. And I had a bunch of them, of old newspapers. Reagan shot, Kennedy shot. I had all that stuff. I didn't have it all on the walls and shit. But that was their main reason that they came. They wanted to make sure that I wasn't a threat to a president. And they made it clear too, because when the news would come on and say Bill Clinton's coming to Los Angeles, they would show up at my house. And you remember, Bill Clinton used to come and fundraise all the time. Fly in just to raise some money, Secret Service would show up.
How many times the Secret Service would you guess 4 times? And every time they just checked on you at the front door to ask
No.
you to-
No. They come with the sheriff's department. And they want to check your house. They want to interview you. They want to take photographs of you every single time. It's like a interrogation every time. They want to know what's in your mind now that the president's flying in. And I could get that from them every time they came, too.
I wonder how many people they do that
too?
Yeah.
And they do it quite well, I'll tell you that. They can scare the living shit out of you. They don't have a personality. They wear the sunglasses like in the movies.
It's like the Men in Black.
Oh yes, it's just like the movies. They have black on, they drive up in black, it's all blacked out, they don't look at you. When you're looking at them in the eyes, all you see is yourself sweating in their glasses.
Yeah.
That's all you see.
That's what they want you to see. It's all about brain.
Yeah, so I'm looking this dude in the eyes and I'm thinking, Jesus Christ, I'm sweating my ass off right now.
So you're right, and then all of a sudden you start going back and forth with Manson personally. Like, he says I'm busy or something. Why the letters? So the next one you wrote was, you obviously responded.
Oh, I didn't even care. I just disregarded it. I don't care if you're busy or not. I'm just going to keep on writing.
You just kept going.
Yeah, and I just kept on going with myself of what I knew.
And then did he ever write? Well, when did he write you back?
He didn't write me back. He didn't start writing me letters. He started basically calling me up, talk a little bit, and then hang up. He's a really weird guy. He's like a timid guy. Here's an example of that. He told me one time, he goes, I used to write because I'd ask him about everything when I was sitting there talking to him, and I was like, how many people do you write? When did you start writing? I asked him about writing letters and fan mail. And he says he used to write a lot of people. And then people would write back to him and tell him how ignorant he was, how he couldn't spell right, how he didn't use punctuation right. And he said, I got embarrassed about that. And he goes, I didn't want to put that out there anymore. I didn't want people making fun of me anymore about my writing because I'm really trying my hardest. I'm uneducated. I already know that. You don't have to tell me that sort of a thing. So he got really a kind of hurt feelings about people telling him he couldn't spell, how ignorant he was, how they couldn't understand what he was writing. So he don't write people right away because of those reasons. He has hang-ups, bad, all kinds of hang-ups. So he started calling me first. And he would have conversations with me on the telephone that were longer and longer and longer. He would be less helter-skelter guy. Because the first time he got on the phone, he was like, he mentioned helter-skelter, he mentioned Charlie Manson, he mentioned things that he thought I wanted to hear. Which I thought, oh, that's sad. That's so sad.
Didn't he try to give you like a moniker or a name or something?
Tried a few different times. And he told me the reason that he gave people nicknames is because he's really not good with names. So it's kind of like, if he gives it to you, he'll remember it because it's something, he called Red Red because she had red hair. He called Blue Blue because she had blue eyes. Simple, huh?
Squeaky?
Squeaky got that name from George Spawn.
Oh.
And people say that Squeaky got the name because of how she had sex. No, it had nothing to do with sex. George Spawn gave her that name after a mule he had who made the same sound that she did. George Spawn also named all his kids after all his horses.
Yeah, I knew that part, yeah. So you went, did he say, so was it when you talked to him on the phone that he did that? I'm going to call you, what was the name he chose?
No, he did that in person. And he did that in the mail too. I even have it in writing. One of the first things he called me was Capricorn.
Capricorn.
Because that's the month I was born in.
Yeah.
And then he called me Ohio. And then he called me the Dog Man. And all of them, I said, that's cold chart. And how you would pick up on one of those nicknames is like this. The minute he start calling you, hey, Scott, you're the Dog Man now. And you start referring to yourself as the Dog Man, that's when it sticks. Until you start doing that, it means nothing. So I never picked up on any of that. Like Grey Wolf, he would be like, this is Grey Wolf. And then Grey Wolf would be like, I'm Grey Wolf.
I'm in the family.
Exactly.
How long after you started talking on the phone? Then how did you merit a visit? How did you get on the list?
He's the one that he has to be the one to come up with that. You can say all day long, I want to come, which I never said. But he has to be the initiator of that. He has to send you the form. He has to agree to it. He has to tell the prison, yes, they're coming. So there's a full formality to that. You can't just show up. That's why Jason couldn't make it in there, because Manson didn't agree to it. If Manson would have agreed, Jason had been there easily. That's all it takes is Manson to agree to it.
Did Jason pursue that while Manson was still alive before this estate business came in?
He was trying. He kept showing up at the prison trying to get in. And they wouldn't let him because Manson didn't agree to it.
What did Manson say about Jason, about his being a relative?
Manson would, again, with Matt wrote him one day and said, hey, I'm your son.
This is Matthew Roberts.
Right.
Okay.
So we'll use him as an example. He wrote him and says, hey, I'm your son. And Manson writes me and says, hey, go check this dude out. He might be my son. Manson believes you at word. You know, whatever you say at word value, he's going to believe you. So he probably believed Jason when he said that. And another thing, there's not a lot of people running towards Manson to be involved with him. So any time that he found that with people where they wanted to be a part of him, not steal something from him, that was different. You know, if you just want to do it to gain something from me, no. But if you actually are on my side and want to be a part of me, there's not a whole lot of people breaking down my door to try to be that. So anybody that showed him any kindness, he would just accept it no matter
Watch
what.
out. Vehicle stopped on shoulder ahead.
Because not a whole lot of people really like Charlie. But everybody liked Charlie. That's the thing. You go to prison and you watch these guards interact with him, everybody loved the guy. He was a pleasant dude. He would laugh with people. He joked with people. He's the guy that you really don't think of being as Charlie Manson. I mean, he's just a little guy and just full of energy. Just everywhere he goes, everybody knew him. Everybody wanted to say hi to him. He always had a joke. Just that kind of guy. And they loved him in prison. They loved him. I don't care what they say. They love that dude. You can just tell. My first visit, when I have to go in there the first time, I'm really leery about going up to the counter because they ask you, who you here to visit? And you got to say, I'm here to Joe Schmo. That don't cause any ruckus. But when you're Charlie Manson, everybody looks at you like, whoa, you're here to see Manson? And that's how the guards were too the first time. They looked at me like, you're here to see Manson? But when I would come back after that and they knew that I was there to see Manson, they immediately lightened up. Like they got happier, more friendly, because now they were going to spend 8 hours with Charlie Manson and me together because they had to chaperone us. They had to sit there with us. And it was always, you could always tell it lifted their spirits some when they knew that they were going to be in there with Manson. And I seen that with all of them. And then they would ask me a bunch of questions, like I was a movie star or some shit when I walked out of there. It's like, hey, how's Charlie like? How do you get to be friends with all this shit, you know? So it's like, and one time I asked Manson, I was like, would you want to get out of jail? Because he was always talking about, oh, I need to get out of jail. I need to get out of jail. And I was like, would you ever want to get out of jail? And he says, no. And then he started explaining to me why. He says, man, this is my castle. Don't you see it? These people worship me. He goes, they'll take me from point A to point B, and they'll make sure that I'm safe the whole way there. They wash my clothes. They come and get them from me and take them from me, wash them and bring them back to me. I don't have to work here. Everybody knows who I am, too. I'm a special guy in this place. This is my castle. They feed me here, too. They bring my food to me. They take it back. He looked at it like that, man. He looked at it like he was the king of the castle, and he really was. Because anytime anybody drive by courtroom, what do they say? That's the prison Manson's in.
Yeah, it's true. That is true. So,
and I just thought, wow, that's a weird kind of thought that you think, wow, you're just so taken care of in this place that you really wouldn't want to leave here. But then think of the other option. They open up the doors. You're gone, Manson. That protection's gone. Now you're at the mercy of whoever's there to pick you up. And it mainly would be a whole bunch of Hollywood, a whole bunch of media, a whole bunch of everything there at the gate to pick you up. Making you promises and, you know, just there to make money off of you, basically.
I think that's why they won't let Leslie out.
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably. It caused too much of a fuss.
Yeah.
Way too much of a fuss. And people would follow her around. And it probably wouldn't be safe for Leslie.
No, I'm sure it wouldn't. Okay, so back to the other stuff. So you're going back and forth visiting Manson eventually. How did it get to the point where he, out of nowhere, sends you a will?
It wasn't really out of nowhere. Again, think of your own self. You have a group of friends, and you've been with this group of friends pretty much all your life. Since the last time you were out of jail, this group of friends is your group of friends. They're speaking for you.
These are the people on the inside, or his friends on the outside?
Outside.
Okay.
One of them was blue.
Okay.
Now those people were speaking for you. They're the ones that they control everything about you. They control your mail. They control who visits you. They control who knows you. They control basically who you write back, because you can go in there and influence Charlie by saying, "Don't write this guy back. He's an idiot. Always for his money." They have that kind of influence over this guy. He's giving it to him because he gives it up like that, because he's really not good on his own on handling a bunch of shit. So he likes other people to handle shit for him. Okay, now all these people are handling shit for him. They left. They're gone. He has nobody. They're gone. Poof, magic, they're gone. Now he needs teeth. He needs dentures. He was crying to me that he can't eat nuts. Oh God, I felt so bad that day. I almost had tears in my own eyes. It's like, because they stole his teeth, because he's Charles Manson. They stole his teeth. He don't have no teeth no more. He don't have no friends no more. He don't have no money no more. He don't have nothing. He can't even eat nuts. He's got a whole bunch of nuts because that's what he orders to eat, And I just felt really bad for the guy. And at the same time, he was telling me he couldn't read my fan mail because of the fact he don't have no glasses. So I was like, hey, let me help you out there. I have a job. I can help you out. You don't have to worry about the money portion of it. How do you get these teeth? How do you get these glasses? That touched his heart, man. I don't know if he's ever seen that before, because I've seen a change in the guy. He was like, almost turned into a puppy dog. Like, why do you want to do this for me? I'm Manson. Why do you want to be so kind to me? What do you want from me? And they kept trying to give me stuff. Let's do a movie together. Let's do an album together. You know what? Take some of my music and let's make an album. And I kept saying, I don't want anything from you. I don't want nothing from you, Charlie. It's not the reason that I'm giving you teeth. It's not the reason that I want to give you glasses. It's not the reason that I want to call up the warden and argue with him about getting your guitar back. It's because you asked for that. You need that help. I can help you. I have the job. I have a telephone. I can call the dentist. So I was doing this kind of shit for him. I got him dentures, got him teeth, getting him shoes, buying him coffee. I became George. I became the guy that left. He kept asking me. George was writing a book for him. Everybody who came into Manson's life was doing something.
Yeah.
They're writing books, they're doing music, they're doing albums, they're Grey Wolf, they're Star, they're running the organization. He kept coming at me all the time. What can I do for you? Because he hates to have one up on him. He cannot stand, that's just Charlie Manson. I don't know, it's just him. He does not like to have you having one up on him.
Like indebted to you somehow.
He doesn't like that.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't take anything from him. So basically he forced this shit on me. Take this shit. I don't know why it came, Scott. I can't give you a reason why it came. It just came. And then he started telling me all the things that need to go along with this.
With the will.
Yes. Like, you are the perfect person to speak for me when I'm dead.
And say what?
Stick up for him. Stick up for the dude, like I always have. Like I always have when money wasn't involved in it. A friend. I'm his goddamn friend. But why he did that, in the back of my mind, I think it was try to grab a hold of me. Because I didn't want that. I don't want anything to do with that. I don't want anything to do with that. And if you watch Charlie long enough, he's always trying to pay people back for shit. And he was always trying to pay me back for shit. And I am a good representative for, always have been. I've always stuck up for him. I'd call the warden on the telephone and say, hey, my friend needs his guitar back. So things like that, But to me to give you an answer why, I don't know.
It's just one day out of the blue. Well, I understand. You explained, your relationship and how you provided for him, and that was his way of, I guess, the ultimate payback is by
what he
giving
did
you.
tell me. What he did tell me, he didn't. It wasn't out of the blue. He did tell me that he wants me to make sure that he takes care of him when he's dead. Basically, he didn't want to be cut up in pieces and have, just like happened to him.
Yeah.
He was a harbinger of that. He already knew what was going to happen to him, and it did happen to him. But that was the real agreement. I didn't see any kind of people after I seen the paper as, I'm going to take care of Manson and make sure he gets buried in Death Valley. That's how I seen it. I didn't see it as how people now see it. It's like, oh, it's all about the money and his image, and I didn't see any of that stuff. All I seen was, I want to bury Manson. That's what I seen out of that whole thing. I didn't see money or anything. It was more of the opportunity to be able to speak for him. That's his image. His image, as a matter of fact, of have a friend speak for him later on. Not like I own any fucking image of his, like I'm going out and taking all the images, now I own them all. No, that isn't image. The image is like, the dude was my friend. Let me tell you about my friend. You've already heard about him from the media part of it. Let me tell you about my friend. That's how I look at the image, I don't look at it as, oh, I own all Manson's pictures now. No, I look at it as, I need to speak for the guy, and I need to give some influence where other people didn't hear it throughout his life. That's how I looked at this thing. I never looked at it as money. I always looked at it as, okay, I'm the one that has to give a good word for this dude. And that's a tough task. But looking at it as some sort of money, like I'm going to profit, no, I never, ever, even from the very beginning, I never seen it like that, ever. And I didn't really even start even having, I read it several times before it ever went into the public. And some of the things that I would read in there aren't the same as what I can read now. Because people put their influence on it. Like, again, like I was trying to explain about my relatives when I seen them all come and grab my grandmother's shit after she died. Other people were influenced by money and shit. I can understand that. The whole world's influenced by money. So I can understand why people would think that about, me being influenced by money. And I don't want this. I never wanted this. I didn't ask for this. What I did tell Manson, though, was I worked in a funeral home. While I was working in the funeral home, my dad died. I was the one that took care of my dad. I went and got my dad, took him to the funeral home, dressed him, put him in the casket, sent him on his way with a note in his pocket from me. Totally respectful kind of thing. Basically, I'm promising Manson respect and death is the only thing.
Yeah.
And almost trying to prove it to him about, of my past. Of, hey, I've been in that respectful kind of business before. I already know about it. I know how to, because he was telling me, the question came up of this. I was like, hey, Charlie, when you die, what happens to you? Where do you go? Because I was thinking more along the lines of, where can I visit your grave at, sort of thing. And he goes, well, they have a place here in the prison, and they cremate everybody at one point and just dump you all in one box. And then they'll put everybody's number on the box.
Yeah.
You get to go out there in the middle of the yard. I says, oh man, that's horrible. He's like, I was born here in prison, who cares? So he really didn't care anyway. And then I started telling him, dude, you really need to get out of here. And that's when he started coming up with the ideas about Hollywood Cemetery and all that kind of shit. And he had some grand ideas too, man, of, wearing a general suit and all kinds of crap. He has some crazy ideas. Why me? Never asking that question. There's a lot of questions I wish I would have asked.
So the adventure of Manson's body, which we were just on, how did it come about? Manson sent you this will, what, 15 years before he died?
He was died in 15.
So Manson dies. Now, did you know Manson was sick? Did you know Manson was going to die?
No, because a year before that, he went in the hospital and he recovered. And then he got back out. Then he went back to prison. And then he got sicker. And then he went back again. And I thought he would just recover again and get back out. Because he did last time. So no, I didn't think he was going to die.
And when he died, what, you know, you went through you're still going through the process of losing a friend and the grieving process or whatever.
It's kind of sad that, you know, the finality of, hey, you never can talk to that person ever again. And it just makes it sad. It's like a piece of you dies every time someone else dies. Because everything that you built something with that person and now it's all gone. You've only got the half of it left. So, yeah, it made me feel pretty bad. But you can't really feel bad because then everybody's telling you how wicked you are for even liking the guy. And then your picture's on the front page of the New York paper saying burn the devil and shit. And it just makes you want to cry. You just want to sit there and bawl your eyes out. Why does the world hate me so bad? You know, sort of thing. So I was able to put myself in his shoes a little bit on how he probably felt in life sometimes, you know. And some people that watch the video say, well, that fucking guy deserved it. He deserved everything he got. I don't know, do we? I mean, that's what religion's around, so people can be forgiven. You know, that's why there's a God in people, so they can be forgiven. But that guy was never forgiven. Every single day of his life, he had to relive that August the 8th, 1969, every single day, over and over and over and over.
It's funny that that Manson's considered a serial killer,
Or even a mass murderer.
yeah. Because really, I mean, it's not unlikely that he may have killed somebody. We know he's tried to. We know he didn't kill anyone on those 2 nights. We know he participated. We knew he participated in Shorty and Gary Hinman.
We don't really know that.
Okay, Hinman we do.
We don't really know how he cut his ear off.
Well, that's what I mean. Participated in that regard. I'm not saying he actually took a knife and plunged it into somebody. I'm saying that there was a participation somehow. He hit Shorty on the back of the head. They took him away and did whatever they did. But Manson technically participated in their deaths. I see
Manson. I see Manson as I don't know. I cannot picture him in that scene of taking charge in a violent scene unless it was somebody smaller than him, maybe a woman. But Shorty, can you actually see him jumping right on Shorty? I don't. I don't.
I mean, didn't he hit him on the back of the head or something with with an axe or something? Not blade side, but I thought it was from behind.
Yeah, but it wasn't Manson who did that. It was one of the people in the car, and Manson wasn't in the car.
Okay.
So, of course, they all had participation. They were all there. The way I look at it is this. If you're there, you had an opportunity to stop everybody who was doing something. So you participated by not stopping them. So I'm not giving him a free pass, no.
And you called them out. You said you gave those girls, you really gave it to them in that regard. You threw them under a bus.
You did, yes.
And you said that to him directly.
I said it to him on the telephone.
You threw those chicks under the bus. And
pretty much.
He went, yeah, well.
Basically, you didn't care about those people. The responsibility wasn't yours about what was the consequences of what was going to happen to everybody else.
And so when you brought up stuff like Helter Skelter, like like Sharon Tate, was he anxious to talk about stuff like that?
Not really. Not that he didn't want to. He would bring it up on his own at times. His whole life revolved around that case. So he would bring it up on his own at times. He would relate his life to it at times and start talking about it, which made you more excited because that's the kind of thing that you want to hear anyway.
Yeah.
But bring it up, no, he wouldn't have a problem talking about it. He'd never say, no, I'm not talking about that. No, he would just, whatever. Sometimes you go off into his Manson kind of speak and not really answer your question. But he would talk about anything. In the case, he didn't really living it over and over and over and over and over all the time, but he talked about it all the time to whoever wanted to talk about it.
There were more than 2 people that started on the estate that filed the papers to claim his body. That's what really started it all, wasn't it? Is trying to get legal possession of Manson's remains.
Right.
You filed.
No, actually no. Jason went in immediately and filed for control of probate, which means you want to control the whole estate, which is the body included. So it wasn't anything to do with the body with them. I was trying to get the body. That was my main thing, trying to get that body to put him in Death Valley. So that's what I was trying to do, get a permit to take him to Death Valley, and I was working on like a security, because it was gonna be a drive from that place we just went from all the way to Death Valley.
Yeah.
And no stops, no nothing. Get there, do it, and get out of there.
You're talking about not cremation. You're talking about full body burial.
I'm talking about full on burial.
Oh, okay. That's where I'm. Okay, I was a little confused there. Okay. When you said you need all the permits and everything, well, yeah, now I get it. I thought you meant they give you the ashes and you you were doing full burial to Death Valley. Okay, that makes sense.
To take him right there from that building. I already had it planned, man. I already had security lined up where people were going to be driving beside this fucking thing. Nobody was going to be in that son of a bitchin' van except the guy driving it and me, so I can watch them, so that nobody is taking pictures of this guy on the way there.
And when it turned into a circus,
that made me feel a little bit responsible for the whole circus. Like I let somebody down, because I'm the one that sit there and said, Charlie, nah, that won't happen, not with me. And then he laughs. He's like, ha ha, you're this big guy. Yeah, I'm Manson. It happens. And he was right. Ultimately, it happens.
You think he'd laugh?
I think he would laugh at it. He already knew. I think he already knew.
Is that why what was that thing with the wedding that they applied for the wedding license? What was that about?
She did.
She
started.
Yeah.
Steve, that's the thing. They said people will say on Manson's side, they'll say, "Well, we never knew this Channels guy. We never knew there was a will or anything like that." Well, yes, they did. Star did. Star knew there was a will, and so did Grey Wolf. I told, there was a couple people that stopped by my house, and I was showing them things, and one of the things that popped up one time was the will. I didn't really want to show it to the dude, but he's seen it. And that guy's a complete dirtbag. He ran back to these people and told them, Star and Grey Wolf, because he was friends with them. They immediately started working on Manson, trying to get a will from him then. Manson called me and told me, basically, you got a big fucking mouth. I told you never to mention this shit to anybody, and here you are bringing it up. And then the next thing he says is, guess what they asked me for? They want me to write them a will. Man. I thought, fuck, why'd I open up my mouth? And then the next thing out of his mouth was, I'm not doing it. And I thought, oh, okay. That relieved me a little bit. It's like, wow, he has faith in me still. And so he made it clear that he knew that they found out about this will, and now they're asking for this will. And then he tells me, I'm telling them no. It was like, okay, I'm not bringing that shit up around him. I'm not going to talk about it because it's just too uncomfortable. Then the next thing, she's trying to get married to him. So I figured she tried to bypass the will and they'll get married to him. So she went and got the paperwork to get married, and he just never went through with it, which I knew he wouldn't anyway.
Well, the story was that he was afraid his body was going to be put on display in some museum.
And she was going to do it.
Yeah.
Put him in a glass box.
I believe it. So did he cut them off at some point?
No, actually he didn't. Charles Manson died broke. But Charles Manson wasn't broke. Charles Manson had like $30,000 in his account. And before he died, he called me up and he says, hey, I want to give you $20,000. And I says, hey, I don't want your $20,000. And he says, are you sure? And I says, yes, I'm sure I don't want it. And he's, okay, I'm giving it to Star then. And he gave it to her.
He just gave her 20 grand.
20 grand.
Why? Did he know he was going to die? He wanted to get rid of it? What was the point?
I think that was part of the point, yeah. I think he knew he was dying.
Yeah.
And he didn't want to leave anything into chance in an account for the state to take. Or Jason would have taken now, because Jason has control over that account, and they're using the money. They're using the money out of the account to keep the storage of the Manson shit. So the money's just getting dwindled down to nothing.
What kind of shit does Manson have that needs storage?
He's got like 3 boxes of shit and 2 guitars. I don't know.
Now, why didn't that stuff end up in
It
that
isn't probate.
museum?
It isn't probate. Well, it will, but right now they can't because nobody owns it. Oh, it will. It most definitely will. Jason was already talking about that in a video. I'm gonna go get the shit that's in the boxes of my grandpa. So he's always concerned about his Manson shit. And I'm not concerned about none of Manson's shit because I was friends with Charlie for 25 years and all Charlie ever did was give me shit. So I've got like 20 boxes of shit at home already. So what do I want more shit for? And if I was all about money, why wouldn't I start making money off of Manson on YouTube and all these things? I'm not about what they say. I was just about trying to fucking do what I already failed at, is give the guy a peaceful burial. But now that we're there, I have a different outlook on that even. You know, where he's at's fine. Where he's at's fine. Wasn't by his choice, but still, it's not as bad as I thought it was.
Yeah, I guess the ultimate.
Because in my mind, all I can see is that damn video of him in the casket, and then they're wiping him all over the face. But that place is really a peaceful place. So if any little portion of him got there on the ground, good. And I'm glad. I'm just glad we went there. It's just a whole different, just kind of a different perspective on that whole thing. It's not as dirty anymore. I mean, the ashes in the people's tattoos still ain't cool, or the ashes in the eyes of the mask still not cool. But ultimately, maybe the most of him got dumped out there on the ground, and if that happened, that's a good thing. And I don't think anybody's got as a pretty a gravesite as Manson does. Do you?
There we are. Yeah. I mean, it's not. Yeah. There's some big, grand, amazing graves that people have built for themselves,
and they're not as nice as that.
No.
And they don't even sound as nice as that. So, again, thanks for bringing me here. I really like that. I really enjoyed that. I enjoyed the lady.
The lady at the coroner's office.
I really liked her. She did smell good too. And the guy was he was great too.
It's kind of weird to summarize everything. If you could, in your mind, you couldn't have had the foresight at all to know what's happening right now.
If I did, I would ask a whole hell of a lot of questions and got them on tape.
That's what I would have asked. What would you do differently?
I would have him talk about it a lot. I was like, hey, when did you remember this thing you sent me in the mail? When did you send it? What was it again? Who else was doing it? You know, I'd ask him all kinds of questions. But then again, would I ask him all kinds of questions? Because that's weird. It's weird because I'm talking about the guy after he's dead to the guy that's alive.
But he's the one that brought it up.
Yeah.
So it's fair game. You just go, what is this going to entail? You know, what are you giving me? What do you want from me? What do you want me to do with this?
And you know what he says? You'll find out when I'm dead.
Is that what he said?
Yes.
No shit. You'll find out when I'm dead.
Not in those words, but yes, that's exactly what he said. Different words, but that's what he said. You'll find out when I'm dead.
The thing you said the other day in that video that really, really made an impression on me is that when you said that what are we fighting here? What are we fighting for? You think you're going to walk away, not you, but you're talking about Jason. You're going to walk away with
A bag of curses.
You thought he thinks he's going in with a bags of money, but it's a bag of curses. That's fascinating.
It's a bag of curses, man.
I hope you found this conversation interesting. Thanks, Troy, for whittling this thing down. Again, it was 5 hours to begin with, so it was quite a lot of work, and I appreciate it. And I want to thank Michael so very much for spending time with me and sharing very candidly this information, his feelings, his thoughts, and the pieces about this case that is still going on today, and for being just a good guy, an all-around good guy. So thank you, Michael. Thank you, Troy. Thank you all for watching. Thank you very much for your time and for your attention. And until next time.
You heard me.